Hi everybody, this is Shannon. I am coming to you today with the rest of the story of how I found out my husband had cancer. I told you briefly a little bit before in the videos before. There's parts 1, 2, 3, and I guess I should even say episodes. I'm not sure at this point. But during this video I'm going to share what it's like to tell my children that their father had cancer. This is probably where I had the most anxiety so far in the journey. And let me just give you some backstory, because you can go back to 1 and 2 and learn a little more about my story. But the long and the short of it is my husband came home from work on a Friday early, and I thought he was just off a little early. And I was in the middle of a craft project, having a beautiful, really a joyful day. And I said, honey, dinner's almost ready. If you want to go freshen up, I'm going to finish this little project. And he did. He went on about his way. I was outside. He went into the house. Very quickly, he came back and he was sitting in a chair. I did not really realize that he was, how long the time had been, because I was preoccupied doing something else. And I look over and he says, or rather I heard him say, I think I need a doctor. And I really quickly jumped to my feet and said, what's wrong? And he said, oh, I'm okay, don't worry about it. Now the reason why I was so startled is because my husband did not go to the doctor. It was a fight to get him to go to the doctor ever. And I wasn't real good about it myself, so it's not to accuse, it's just was not wisdom. And so I said, what's wrong? He said, well, I think there's a little bit of blood in the toilet. And I said, oh honey, it's okay, it's probably a hemorrhoid, it's all right, don't worry, I'll take a look. And basically I went into the bathroom thinking it would surely be a little hemorrhoid. I would make him an appointment to see the doctor, and no worries. What I walked into was blood splattered inside the toilet, just a lot of blood. And I was really scared. And I went immediately. One of my children live in the house, basically like a house next door, on some land. We live on land, and she lived really close to me. And it just so happens she was home and her brother was with her. So I went out my back door. I told him to get dressed, and he really wanted to take a shower. And I said, get dressed, and I just went out my back door, walking really fast, really probably jogging. And when they saw my face, my daughter said, what's wrong, Mom? And I said, your dad's bleeding. And I asked my son to come with me. And they just began, my son-in-law was there, got the car ready, what have you, went back in the house. My husband is trying to take a shower. And I have my son kind of help me get him in a car, basically. So my kids had already known something was wrong. 2 days later at a hospital, they do a colonoscopy. We're sent from one hospital to another. They do this colonoscopy a couple of days later, and I am told I'm alone on a Sunday morning in a waiting room alone, and a doctor comes out that I'd never met before, because we had not met the gastro doctor that was going to do the colonoscopy. And he tells me my husband has what he thinks is stage 1 cancer, a rectal tumor. And he showed me photos. And my response to this was, it was surreal. I was not myself. I didn't feel like I was there. I was in a complete fog. He told me to tell my husband, because he was still awake, and basically I guess he needed to go about his way, the doctor. And I was very much telling him, I can't do that. Please, tell my husband. I just felt like I could tell him myself. And you can see a little, if you want to look at the videos before this one. They're very short videos, but they'll tell you a little more of what that was like for me. So fast forward a few hours later, my children are on their way to the hospital. I didn't contact them right then. One of them was actually two of them were in church and helping with worship and things like that. And I just waited, and I waited near the elevators. There was a little waiting area, and I just waited, and I kind of prayed. I prayed like, God, help me be able to articulate this to them. And there I was when they got off the elevator, waiting. And I don't know if there's a right way to tell your kids, and they were adults, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And they knew something was wrong, but by this point we think, because my husband had a bad knee and he had taken ibuprofen for a long time, the nurses had kind of said, it's probably bleeders, it's probably, all this ibuprofen, they're probably going to go in there and zap those out. So when the doctor tells me it's cancer, I am just not prepared for that at all. So at this point I have a couple hours to process. My husband's awake, and as the kids get off the elevator, I said, hey, before you go in to see your dad, I need to talk to you. And I just said, they found cancer, rectal cancer. Your dad has a tumor. And my son was stellar. He looked so shocked, but he never shed a tear. He was just, I think, in man motion. He was 24. And I think he thought, I'm going to respond to help my mother. And my daughter, she began to have a panic attack. And her husband was with her, and what to know is our family's really close. And my son-in-law, who's been in my family for almost 14 years, he was really crushed. He had lost his dad as a young man, and he was hurt. You could see it in his face. I as much hated to tell my son-in-law as my own children. And he's really, really close to his father-in-law, and my husband loves all his children, and he loves my son-in-law like one of his kids. He really does. So they took it pretty well. And then I had to tell my other daughter by phone, actually two, my children by phone. And she just really fell apart. She fell apart. And they were distraught. It felt like the end of the world. Our life had been perfect in many ways, so beautiful and so easy. Their dad was a very sound thinking man, very strong, very skilled. And I think they were probably afraid, just like me. Dad keeps things normal. So that's how I told my children. I just told them, praying God would help them. And it was probably one of the worst things I've ever had to do. And I'll be honest with you, I would have wanted anybody else to do that but me. And yeah, that's the story of telling my children their dad had cancer. If you all have a better way to share with someone, please let me know in the comments so I can advise other people or someone else can hear. And the biggest thing I want to say here is you're not alone if you're going through a journey with your loved one or spouse. And I'm talking to spouses here. This is a spouse's perspective, a wife's perspective. You're not alone. If you'll just let me know that you're here in the comments, I'll pray for you peace. And I did not have peace for a long time. And then I began to pray for peace, and it's been very helpful. Anyway, God bless you all. I hope you will subscribe to my channel. It'll help me. And I'm going to talk on some different topics, and one is going to be the cost of cancer. That's a hard one, y'all. The cost of cancer. Have a beautiful day.